All right, welcome to the Smart Roofers System podcast. We're here today on who knows what episode, but it's gonna be
Episode
probably
5.
episode
Episode
Cinco. And on this podcast, Jacob and myself, we talk about the 7 keys: planning, money, operating, marketing, sales, staffing, and leadership. In today's podcast, with no script, we're going to be talking about what?
Leadership.
Leadership. Um, and just for everyone to know, we actually don't do scripts. So just wanted to let you know that.
No podcast scripts.
Zero. So
we just freestyle. We freestyle everything.
What's on our mind? Leadership. Leadership in a company.
Yeah.
I've built many companies, and I've been a good leader, and I've been a bad leader at times. And I've also built companies that have leaders inside. So when we're talking about leadership, we're not just talking from a president, owner, CEO status. We're talking about from the top down. You can have good leadership in your labor workforce. You can have good leadership in your sales force. You have a good leadership in your customer service and project management and estimate. And you have to be able to be a good leader as an owner to get you through times that are hard. Maybe when you're not as profitable or just getting started out, but you have a clear vision and leadership and clarity, we're able to spread that throughout the company. But also part of leadership, I think, is building other leaders and building other people up. So,
for sure.
Jacob, what's one thing that stands out to you with leadership as far as a company's needs?
Well, a company needs somebody who's going to be calm in a bad situation. So if you think like any leader of a team, even like whatever, Navy SEALs, the military, they're trained to be calm in situations that are bad. So one thing Tate is really good at is he is not a reactive person. I've worked with a lot of people who are reactive in situations that, some people freak out, and you have to have control over your emotions to be able to make the best decisions. And I think that's what leaders do, is they make the best decisions in all situations, or at least they try to. Like, nobody makes perfect decisions all the time. But as a leader, one of your jobs, or your job, is to make decisions, the best decision for the good of the group overall, right? It's not in self-interest. It's how is this going to affect the team, and what decision do I need to make so that everybody benefits from it? And so it's sort of like a sacrifice. You got to be willing to sacrifice your own comfortability sometimes as a leader. And it's really taking ultimate accountability for yourself and for your team's actions, right? I think the best leaders, the ones that I've seen, they feel like it's always their fault. They feel like, they're the last person to point the finger, and most times they never point fingers. They're saying, in this situation, how could I have done better? What can we do to improve next time? Instead of the opposite of that is the guy who, when something happens, they're very reactive and they point the finger at somebody else. Those people, you have to be very careful, and you have to identify that quickly and nip it in the bud, or get rid of them, because that is a cancer to your company. So that's the opposite to me of what a leader is. I don't know. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's great. I mean, to simplify it, I'd say leadership is about influencing, vision, responsibility, and a true leader, really just sets the tone, not just through strategy, but through action and communication and values. Mm-hmm. And, what you just explained there about leadership it hits on all of those key points. As far as leadership, in a company, I think it also shapes your culture. If you have a manager who's not willing to teach and do the hard work and influence and vision to be able to, you know, pick someone up.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just give you an example. I've had some managers that they were just kind of hermity. You know, they were great with a keyboard and putting things together and paper and everything like that, but they didn't like um, making hard decisions. They didn't like telling people, you know, on your team, like, hey, you need to do this.
Yeah.
And it could have been because maybe they felt that they didn't have enough experience. But I think a big thing too, being a strong leader, you have to have confidence.
Yeah.
Um, if you're not confident in leading other people, you're going to lead them down a rabbit hole,
Mm-hmm.
and your company will spiral or
Yeah.
stay very stagnant. So, um, I think as another thing too, like a leader also needs to listen more than talk. I find that my best decisions are asking our team, you know, members, and also um, my wife and good friends and mentors, you know, hey, here are some things that I'm going through, and just
Mm-hmm.
listening to their input. And instead of just talking, you know, showing up and really listening to their input and then taking that and strategizing, so I can have, you know, good action and communication and values within my team.
Yeah, yeah, I really like that. It's like
Um,
you take their information that they give you, and then you're ultimately the one that's going to make the decision, right? But having all that input allows you to make a better decision for them because they're literally telling you what they need,
yeah,
and then you can then go and make the best decision for them.
yep. And sometimes too, like that decision might be, I don't think you need that, and
Mm-hmm.
that could be a really tough conversation. But
Yeah,
as a leader, you have to be able to say yes and say no. And I think there's too many yes men out there, um, in companies where because they're afraid of um, the reaction
mm-hmm.
of their team, and you know, you have to put it in perspective. Like, I'm saying no because I feel like it's not the best decision for our company, or we're not,
Yeah,
you know, currently, you know, set up to do that right now.
yeah, yeah. You're saying I heard somebody say this, but it was I'm saying yes to you, but I'm saying no to the thing that you're telling me. It's like I'm saying yes, I'm in support of you, but I'm saying no to this one thing,
Mm.
right? Like yeah, it's you got to be willing to have hard conversations with people on your team. If you're not, like you were saying, you don't have the confidence to be able to do that, and tell them what's best for them or what you think is best. If you ultimately know what's best, you need to tell them that. And if they're messing up on the team, or if they're just not, and another thing, like the thing that encompasses all of this is like your vision too, right? It's like what's the vision, because every decision that you make is going to align your team to the vision that you have set for them, that you have in place. But that's a topic for another day. It sort of this lives inside of it though. You have to have those conversations with your team and tell them like, hey, I don't think that this is working. I think that you need to be doing this, or this can be improved, and here's how you can improve it from my perspective. And ultimately, they need to respect your decision as the leader.
Mm.
But yeah, have those hard conversations sometimes. Be willing to. Otherwise, it's nothing's going to change.
Yeah, I think if you're feeling stuck, or maybe too, like you are in a leadership role, and maybe you feel like you've, you know, screwed up in your leadership role. Um, you have to be able to smooth it out, build back that trust, build back the confidence within yourself. Um, I mean, being an owner, I'm in a leadership role, and I could say, you know, many years ago, I've screwed up. You know, I've made a bad decision on moving from one location to another location.
Mm-hmm.
I've made a bad decision on opening a location when should have not opened the location. Um, and that team, we plummet, we failed. Um, it was chaotic, and clarity wasn't there. Maybe sometimes having other leaders as an owner, um, and other mentors, I think is pretty important
Yeah.
because
We all want to be led.
you can't just think of I'm going to be a leader and I'm going to do it myself, right? You're not up on front. You're usually in the back, and you're helping everyone else climb to the top, and
Mm-hmm.
it can be really stressful. It can be very, very stressful, and if you're not clear on the direction, or if you feel stuck in the momentum, or your team's just not performing, and it needs an extra push, um, it, you have to be able to pivot and look for the clarity, to set a true leadership standard. And
Mm-hmm.
so, as a leader of owner, like owning a company and everything, um, you're going to make bad decisions. It's just part of the nature. Um, Being able to realign, feel, get that power back, to get that leadership, to be able to listen. We're going through a storm. It's chaotic, but I got to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
There's no options to stop
Yeah.
moving.
You can't bail.
And one of my favorite things that one of my mentors told me when I was going through this, actually, his name is Sean Whalen, and he had, told him, hey, like, I just lost two staff members. I'm going through COVID. Um, I'm getting letters from, you know, the general, attorney to shut down. And I just don't see this business like making it through it. And one thing that he said was, you have to burn the boat, close it, and keep going. Find a new sell. And I thought that was very interesting because it was like, okay, like, yeah, I'm closing shop.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, we've already lost all of our employees. We've lost over pretty much, more than half of our uh, our members, and I was still fighting to go on when I should have just burnt it and picked another cell.
Yeah.
So, um,
Knowing when to quit.
knowing when to quit.
Sometimes, even though, I mean, failure is a strong word. I don't think anything's truly a failure. I
No,
think it's all just learning. It's all just lessons on the way to success, whatever success is for you. But yeah, that builds. I think that's one of the reasons why you're so calm in a lot of situations where other people might, because you've been through a lot of things
I've been through
that you've been through a lot of things that would break some people, and when you come out of the other side, you're like, well, this is. I mean, this is a little storm compared to the ones that I've been through, right? That's one thing I noticed about you is you're always very calm in bad situations or something that somebody else might perceive as a bad situation. You don't react, which I think is a sign of a good leader, somebody who's not reactionary and can stay level-headed in a situation where a important decision needs to be made. You need to have somebody who's level-headed and who's experienced or who can experience bad situations the right way. That's the best leader
Yeah.
to me.
And I think too, like, part of leadership too, you have to look at not just what they're doing within their company, like in your company, but also what they're doing outside of your
Yeah.
company. I think there's certain people that have skills that are able to go through things to create a good leader. And if their life's pretty chaotic
Mm-hmm.
or unbalanced, it's going to be, they're just not quite there, quite ready to be a leader. They might have the potential, but they're just not there.
Yeah.
So don't move, you know, a laborer, or a roofer, like, up through the company to become a foreman. If, he's still having a hard time, showing up, on time. He might do good work and everything like that, but he can't show up on time. That's the number one thing.
Yeah.
You know,
The crew's not going to respect
the
that.
crew's not going to respect that.
Yeah.
Um, I think too, we were talking about, prior to this, you were talking about guys coming out of, college. And I think you and I actually have two different views there. Um, but tell me a little bit about that. Like you were saying, you were working. Um,
Yeah. I worked for some companies where, you know, the company will hire somebody to manage projects, and maybe that person is right out of college. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they've had field experience, but majority of the time they haven't had any field experience. They're more they just haven't worked in the industry necessarily. And one of the problems I see is they don't understand the scope of work in the field, and then they're trying to manage a team who understands the scope of work, and they're responsible for telling them what to do, but they don't know what to do themselves yet. And I think that can create a lot of friction between the field team and maybe the office whatever team that person's a part of, because they come out in the field with their shiny hard hat and their clipboard, and they're trying to make requests on the team, and they get laughed at sometimes. I think that sometimes it's better for that person to have an understanding of. I think it's always better for that person to have an understanding of the work that's happening and the scope of work that the company's doing. Um, and sometimes, though, when you hire somebody from the field and put them in a position, let's say, in the office where they're managing a team, it doesn't always work out because the two dynamics, that person out in the field is not necessarily going to be a great person to be in an office environment where you have to deal with people. You need more people skills. So for a role like that, I believe you need people skills, leadership skills, and also you have to understand the scope of work as well. And I think that sometimes that's lost when you're hiring directly out of college. But again, it's something that can be learned.
yeah, I think when, you know, I went to college and everything like that, and I think I do have field experience. In the summers, I worked on a roof. In the winters, I worked on a roof. During college, I would, to get me by with tuition, I would drive a truck, loading roofs. Um, and I've done installs. And so those are things where, you know, I do have experience with that. But I also have experience with doing, submittals. College preps you in a way that's different than actual work experience. I feel that college helped me, one, be more organized, two, be able to, we read prints, understand
Mm-hmm.
prints, write RFIs, be able to problem solve when you have details that aren't typical. Um, and I think a guy coming out of college who might not have experience in the field, because I've hired, project managers and estimators who don't have any experience in roofing, and they've exceeded.
There you go.
And I think that, yeah, they might not know how to install or never done an
Mm-hmm.
install, but they're willing to learn. They're able to understand quicker. Um, here's the process
Mhm.
of the layers and the systems of the roof. Here's how, here's what warranties you get when you create, a system and a roof and everything, right? Like, and a lot faster than someone who's just installing,
Yeah.
because all that they've known their whole life was, I'm going to tear this roof off or I'm going to put this roof on.
Hmm.
But they don't understand the back end and the paperwork that goes with it.
Yeah.
Um, Actually, I was speaking with a roofer last night that I grew up with, and he's been in the roofing industry now for 32 years. Um, and he didn't know, because I asked him, "Hey, are you guys, Carlisle certified?
Hmm.
And do you have an NDL, the company you work for?" And he didn't know what an NDL was. And that stands for no dollar limit, like warranty, that they're going to replace it and everything. And that's something that, you think someone that's worked in the industry for 32 years would know,
Hmm.
but they didn't know, because their skill set is being a foreman on the job site.
Hmm.
They're great leaders.
Hmm.
They understand the details. They can run a crew, but they don't know the back end
Yeah.
of the business.
Hmm.
And so, you know, I think personally, um, I mean, you had great consulting. You were consulting,
Hmm.
roofers and everything like that. But when we met, you had no experience with installing roofs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you've adapted, being a leader, in the sales position, and being able to, understand systems and processes. It's it's made you stronger.
Yep. Yeah.
And
Community college too. Never been to
there you
college.
go.
What up? I didn't even graduate community college. So
So, it's kind of like one of those things where, you know, you've created skills to make you a leader in your area and in your sales presence,
mhm.
and um, being able to build off of that, is just good. So
Yeah.
I don't think you necessarily have to have experience, if you're in the roofing industry or any industry. I don't think you have to have experience to, that you've never done it. I
Yeah.
think that you do have to have the
Willingness
willingness,
to learn.
to be able to
Absolutely.
take action and, you know
Yeah.
learn the systems and the processes.
That's really all it is. It's information and implementation.
Yeah.
And you got to be willing to do it. You also have to believe that you can, right? And that's where I mean, we're demonstrating it real time, and tons of people are as well. Some people better than others, but what I do know is that if you implement the right processes and you stick to it and you know how to lead and hire the right people and you'll get there. You don't need to go to college. Everything is learnable on YouTube. I mean, I've been to YouTube University for the past, I don't know, like four or 5 years. It's been some of the best stuff you can learn on there. But um, yeah, I mean, having people around you, having mentors that have the wealth of information is super important. That's why we're here. Is like Tate here, he's built companies, highly successful companies, and he's been through all the ups and downs and understands. He understands companies inside and out, and he knows how to lead a team. And he has all of these skills that take people forever to learn. And he has great mentors too, right? So we all want to be led. We all want mentors, and yeah, anybody can do it. You just have to be willing to do it, like you said.
Yeah, I think leadership is it's a skill. Being able to build your confidence. Um, I think, let's just wrap it up like this. So I think great leaders create clarity during chaos, direction when things feel stuck,
Mm-hmm.
and momentum when the team needs to be pushed through. Whether you're running a startup or leading a division in a large, company, your team's watching, and how you lead every day and is going to show, it's going to follow an example, not just by your actions, or your words. So, um, I think the way that you show up every single day, you know, your team is watching. And you can't just tell someone to do something that you haven't done before, but you can explain to them and give them an example and show them more that you're willing to learn and walk through um, the tough times, celebrate, during the great times and get through during the slow times. Those are, um, that is what a leadership is. And you got to always sharpen your skills. So,
Absolutely.
well, thanks for joining this podcast wherever you are, whether it's morning, good night, or having lunch, if you'd like to learn more about our smart roofer systems or just, fly in on a Friday to talk with us, have lunch, bounce some ideas. We'd love to set up a time with you. So every Friday you can fly in here, Seattle, Washington, and we'll spend time with you, talk about your business, and help you with the 7 keys of the business. So keep working hard, have fun, and we'll talk to you soon.